Hi everybody! Welcome back to part 2 on boundaries. If you haven't watched my first part on boundaries, go back to the previous video to give you some insights on some boundaries. And this is part 2 of that one, so if you have watched it, congratulations for moving on. Today we are going to be talking about boundaries again, but different types of boundaries that there are. So I've made a ton of notes with me, so bear with me because I didn't want to miss anything for you. I wanted to give you the best information because when you implement boundaries into your life, it actually really gets you to look at an overview when you do start setting boundaries of where your belief system has come from and how sometimes we grow into belief systems, whether it be our parents or surrounding family or friends, and we really realize that that's not our true identity. Those aren't our boundaries. We're living by other boundaries that we've been taught. But now this is the time that we need to really come back into ourselves and make boundaries for ourselves. So if you are lacking self-esteem and confidence, and if you feel that you can't stay at home alone, not just because you're afraid to stay at home alone, but if you always have to be around people constantly, you feel that you need to be the life of the party, then we know that you don't have boundaries, you lack self-esteem, you lack confidence at times. And don't get me wrong, I know there are some people that do enjoy to go out, but when you go out, how often are you going out? What are you covering it up with? Is there, and we know that when there's lack of boundaries, again from the first video, that lack of boundaries carries out habits. So are you into different substance, we could call it substance abuse, but are you out drinking a lot? Are you smoking? Do you feel the need that you have to get drunk or intoxicated quite frequently? And this goes again, staying at home. Why can't you stay at home by yourself? What's wrong with that? Why do you feel the need that you have to get out of your environment? Where are the boundaries lacking in your personal life, in your career, in around you with neighbors and friends? And this is something that we're going to get into, the different types of boundaries. So we know that when we have boundaries, you really become clear on who you are, you build your self-esteem, you build your confidence because you know what you're going to tolerate, what you're not going to tolerate, and other people around you are going to know what they can bring to the table with you or not. So that shows a lot of respect as well too when you carry boundaries for yourself. And we know when you start making boundaries, it's very uncomfortable for others because most people are used to having that control. They're used to saying something and you maybe always saying yes, and you always, let's go out, let's go out. These are just, quick examples, and you always say yes, and then all of a sudden you say no, and they put a little bit of resistance into it because they're not used to you saying no and standing up for yourself. It's not just standing up for yourself, it's really listening to your true self as well as having boundaries as well. So let's get into my list here so I don't talk too much, and you guys can take notes as well too. So boundaries, what do they help? They help you define your identity, which we just spoke about. You become more clear and confident with yourself. You protect yourself as well from violators. So boundaries let in what is good and keep out what is bad, so you can express your true self. That's very, very important. It also brings order. So regular demands or responsibilities, opportunities. Life can be chaotic, and if you have boundaries, it's much easier to stay within those boundaries and make life less chaotic. So they also protect yourself from the control of others. Again, working with different maybe relationships, children, spouses, exes. When you put those boundaries into place, again, there's going to be some resistance at first, but when they know what to expect, there's going to be better communication, right, between everybody. It's also going to help maintain your purpose and mission in life too when you do have those boundaries, because it's easier to set goals, right? You know what you're going to take, you know what you're not going to take. And then as well as we know it gives you great self-esteem and confidence for yourself. So When we go to the opposite of having poor boundaries, I'm just going to read off my list I made of poor boundaries and ineffective boundaries. So, loss in respect for yourself and others, loss of control of the direction in your life, increased chaos, distractions, and guilt. How many people carry guilt from so many different things that happen? And then just a loss of interest in life. And this is where people pick up bad habits. And instead of going out and enjoying their life, they're sitting around, whether it be, sitting around doing nothing, always maybe going out to the same place. And we need to go out and drink all the time, right? You find these bad habits of just being lazy in the moment and not enjoying life. Also, it's again, so that loss of interest in life that we just spoke about. And then sometimes it can make you feel hopeless, depressed, anxiety. And because without personal boundaries, you will act, sleep, work, groan, feel unfulfilled with basic responsibilities rather than make choices to live and love life and work fully. So that is a quick on boundaries and what it is like, good boundaries versus having poor boundaries. Now let's get in quick into the different types of boundaries, because boundaries are all over the place. And what are they? So from my list here again, we've got our physical boundaries, right? So that's your body, right? From beginning of birth, as we grow up into middle age, and even elders need to have boundaries as well too when it comes to dealing with their adult children, right? We're all individuals. We all have boundaries of how close can somebody stand or not. That goes for me. I'm one because I do work with a lot of energy and I pick up a lot of energy from people. When I'm doing sessions in person, I do like to have that space. I also doodle while I work. A lot of my clients know I say doodle while I'm channeling, so they know that I do like that space. But during the session, but after the session, there's a lot of people say, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm totally cool with that. That's fine. But that's one of my boundaries that I do like to keep, is that when I am channeling, I do like to have that and maintain that space in between my client. But once my session is done, arms are wide open, and everybody, or majority of people, do like to ask for a hug just from that session. So again, those are my boundaries, and it's good to have those personal physical boundaries. Then if we go physical, we move into the sexual boundaries. So what's your comfort for level of sexual touch, activity, acceptance, where, when, and then you have to really look into this in sexual and physical, right? And when you go at home, when you're out with friends, and when you're with coworkers, what are your boundaries? Because your boundaries should be different for each one, because we know that when you're at home and you have a partner, your boundaries are probably going to be a little bit more open with them versus being out with friends. Maybe a tap on the shoulder, maybe a hug, side hug, kiss on the cheek. Maybe that's okay. When you get into coworkers as well too, you're not going to interact with those sexual boundaries. You're not going to act with the friendship boundaries, because there's a different standard that is going to be at that work level versus friends versus your personal life at home, right? And this is where you don't want to intertwine too many, because this is when boundaries get misled, mistaken, and people cross over boundaries and friendships are destroyed. Then we move into material boundaries. So again, around your property, what is it that you expect of people when they come over? Do you have kids? Maintenance of it, neighbors, right? These are different boundaries that you set up. Do you do the gardens all the time? Do you like to maintain it? This actually is a boundary. It's not just about keeping your place nice. This is the boundaries and expectations that you keep for that. Now we have mental boundaries that we go into. So these define your thoughts, your values, your opinions, and knowing that you're allowed to have your own thought and opinion. It just depends, when can I put that out there, my opinion? Should I hold it back? Should I give it? Right? So this is about mental boundaries, being open, being able to open to listen to somebody else and not judge. And kind of, if you have to keep your comments back, this is a boundary that you need to keep for yourself in respect to others as well. Then we have emotional boundaries. This is a big one too, of respecting your body, respecting your emotions, having your own personal boundaries with your emotions as well as somebody else. So just because you may not feel upset and cry about something, that doesn't mean somebody else may not react the other way. And you have to respect their boundaries as well too. Lastly, are spiritual boundaries. And I like to clarify spirituality and religion are two totally different things. So you can have boundaries against religion as well too if you want. I don't want to get into that, but more on spiritual boundaries on your own belief systems, what you want to choose to accept, what you choose to allow into your life or allow others that are, allowed into your life as well too. So these are many different boundaries. I'm just going to go over them quick. We've got physical boundaries, sexual boundaries, material boundaries, mental boundaries, emotional boundaries, and spiritual. So it'd be awesome if you guys could write those down and put down underneath of them, what are your boundaries, and take a look at them and say, is this a healthy boundary or is this not so healthy? And where can I tighten up or loosen up a little bit in my boundaries? And then try them out. Use them at work, use them at home, use them on the kids. Be prepared for a little bit of that resistance because nobody likes change, or a lot of people don't like change, especially when it's coming from yourself and you carry these habits and old belief systems. And then all of a sudden you're going to go and change and people are like, what the heck is going on here? So be patient, but also be consistent on those boundaries. When you are doing these different boundaries and you do start moving into boundaries, you're probably going to feel a little bit of guilt. You're probably going to feel a little bit selfish. You're going to feel that maybe this isn't the right thing because there is so much resistance. But no, this is totally a normal aspect of setting boundaries. And you'll also find when you start setting these boundaries, you may have some friends and family that move back from you. And no, that's okay, because these are toxic people. They may be nice people, but toxic for our well-being along our journey with our boundaries that we have set, right? So we have to also know that if we set boundaries and we are really diligent on this is set in stone and I'm not willing to move on this, and somebody does disrespect those boundaries, you have to be willing to walk away from that as well too, which is very, very difficult when you are in different types of relationships. Just want to see here if I have anything else that I wrote down that I can give to you on the boundaries. Because the next video that I am going to do, it's going to be a quick one, and it's going to be on actually setting boundaries and the different steps and stages that you're going to go through on setting boundaries. And this way it's going to help you really, once we do this last part that we just talked about of kind of going through the different boundaries, putting your boundaries in there where they need to be changed, next I'm going to give you the tools on how to change them, the different process, and how to go about doing it so you feel a little bit more confident. But you're definitely going to see positive change in the end. We all know it takes time for routine of anything to change and shift. Be patient, wait it out. You're going to see so many different things evolve and really even opportunities come up, and feel less chaotic, feel less anger. You're going to see your emotions change too once you start shifting into these positive boundaries. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Just send a message down below. Don't forget to share this video, like it, pass it along. Let's work together so everybody can have their boundaries and understand that they are worthy, that they are of value. And let's build their self-esteem, let's build their self-confidence so they can feel confident out in this chaotic world that is lacking so many boundaries. Have a wonderful day.